there are times when you've got to sit down and the rubber is getting ready to hit the road and you got to figure out, this is what I've got to do. I got to pay some bills. And everybody sits through this and goes through this and looks at your checkbook and says, well, what am I going to do? And God has a plan for that. And you know, Jesus said that where your treasure is, there your heart will be. All right, here in Leviticus 27, verse 30, it says, a tithe, and that's the Hebrew word mahaser, which is also the same word you find in Genesis when it talks about first fruits. So our first fruits, the best, the first tenth of everything. And in the Hebrew, that word everything, guess what? It means everything. So a tenth of everything, a tithe from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. And look here what it says. It says, here in writing scripture, it says that this tithe, this first fruit, it is holy to the Lord. So we understand what a tithe is. We understand that's what we're supposed to do. But how are we supposed to do that? So over in Malachi chapter 3, beginning in verse 10, the scriptures say, bring the whole tithe, all of it, not part of that first fruit, not part of that first 10%, into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. So many scholars, and I'm not a scholar, but many scholars believe that when the word storehouse is used here in Malachi, that it refers to bringing the tithe, the first 10%, the first fruits, to the temple. It turns out the more that you have, and this doesn't seem to make any sense, but the more that you have, the harder it is to give. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense though, does it? You know, think of it like this. Let's say that that maybe you have a job and you make $10 a year, right? And so say $10 a year, what's 10%? I can do that. That's no big deal. I can do that. And you think, well, what can you buy off $1 anyway? Hey, no big deal with that either. And so maybe I'll give $2, because you figure, what's the big deal about that? Doesn't seem to be that hard. But what about if you had a job and instead of making $10 a year, what if you made $10,000 a year? And so then you get your checkbook out and you're flipping through all your things and you say, you know what? That's a lot of money. And you sit down and you're writing a check to the ministries at New River, and you're writing a check, for $1,000, because that's 10% of 10,000. And you start to think, $1,000? Whoa, wait a minute. We could do something with $1,000. I mean, we could go on a little vacation or something. We could buy something we need around the house. But what about if God provided you with a tremendous job and tremendous opportunity, and let's say you made $100,000 a year? And then you say $10,000, 10%. That's a lot. I don't know if I can do that or not. And so maybe we better take a look at it and try and figure out how this whole plan that God has for us, how it really works.